Geometry, we're going to try to reflect some images. The first couple ones we're going to just reflect across a line. So if I want to reflect this quadrilateral across line L, I need to reflect each point. To reflect a point, you need to go 90 degrees across the point, across the line. So F is going to have to go 90 degrees, a line drawn 90 degrees to L, and go the same distance on each side, which is why I've got my ruler here. So let me, first of all, make sure I'm going 90 degrees by adding a square in the corner here. So if I add a little square, put that right next to my line. I know that forces me to be 90 degrees, so if I'm right along both edges here, I am 90 degrees. Then I need to get the same measure, so I need to come up here and actually physically measure this. So if I measure this, this is going to be, here's 5, 6, 7, almost 8 millimeters. So if I'm almost 8 millimeters, times 2 would make me 16 millimeters. So I need to go to the other side. And so then that's going to be, here's my 5 and there's my 6. I'm just slightly too long. Back that up just a little bit. Okay, and then I need to put a point over there. And that point is going to be called F prime. So that's the image of F reflected across line L. Then I get to do the same thing for each of my other points. So I'm going to put another box and draw another line. And again, this one needs to go 90 degrees, so I put the little box in the corner so that it's along my line of reflection, my L, and right along the red line to make sure I'm going 90 degrees. And then again, I want to go the same distance on both sides. So this E to the line of reflection, I think, is 5, 6, 7, 8.5. So out the other side, 8.5 times 2 would give me 17. So let me make this 17. And so, oops. This is where the point G prime would be, or E prime. Okay, so E prime would end up over here. And then I need to take G and go the other way with it. So G has to go this way. Again, it's going 90 degrees, and I want to go the same distance on each side. So I move my ruler up. Oops. And I'm going to measure from G. And G would be 5, 6, 7. So 7 would make it 14. So let me move it back to here. So 14, here's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, there's 14. And let's put a point there, put a point on 14. And that's going to be G prime. And these are starting to get confusing. Oh, and I need to make sure I did go 90 degrees. So let me put my square on that line so you can see the 90 degrees. So let me make my squares all red. Line color. There you go. So they're just part of the drawing. And then I can make my primes here a different color. Let's go with green for an image. Okay, so the black ones, F, G, D, and E, are all my pre-image, and the G prime, F prime, E prime, and now I need to do D prime. Well, I don't really need to do D prime because D is on the line, so it's its own reflection. So D kind of just is there twice. You could do D and label it D and D prime, but you don't really need to. Then I need to draw in my shape, so I'm going to grab my segment. I'll make my segment green to match my letters. And so F was touching G, so F prime needs to go to G prime. And F was going to E, so F prime needs to go to E prime. And then E was going to D, so E prime needs to go to D. And G was going to D, so G prime needs to go to D. And so there is my reflected image. You can clean it up if you'd like. And you can see it maybe better without all the extra lines on it. But all those extra lines were how it was created. Come on. There we go. So there is my reflection across line L. Let's try another one of those where we have to use a ruler. So this one, it's at an angle, so this one's even harder, which is why I'm going to use the box for sure. So I'm going to grab my box, and why don't I just put it up here and make it a cloner, so I can just keep grabbing my box. Oops, maybe not yet. I'll need to make it at the same angle as my line. There. Now I can make it a cloner. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to draw my rays. I start at H. I'm going to reflect across line L. So I need that to be at 90 degrees. So I put the little box there, so I can make sure I'm going right at 90 degrees and I'm not off at all. And then I grab my ruler and I measure. And where am I going to do? There we go. I can grab it down here. So if I measure from this end, so I am 5, 6, 7.5. 7.5 to get me to the line. Oh, maybe not. There we go. So that's 5, 6, 7. I'm still sitting at 7.5. 7.5 times 2 would be 15. So I want this line segment to be 15 to get me to the new point. And I need some points here. So let me grab a point. Okay, so H, there's my original point. And there is H prime right at 15. And label H prime. And I'll do the same thing I did on the other screen. I can make that green so you can see where that one lies. Then I'm going to move this over, and I got to do the same thing for K. So I'm going to go grab K and make sure it's red. And I'm going to go 90 degrees across, bring my box down to make sure I am going 90 degrees. Okay, that is going 90 degrees. And then I want to measure it to make sure I'm the same distance on both sides of my line of reflection. So that is 5, 6, 6 and a little bit. So that would be 12.5-ish. So let's go to 12.5. 12.5 would be back here. And put a point there at 12.5. And there's my point K. And so this point is going to be K prime. And again, I'm going to color that green so that we see it better. Move the ruler out of the way. So H went across to H prime, K went across to K prime. Now I've got to do the last one with J, so bring my little triangle over here somewhere. Grab J, come this way. It's going to have to be the same distance across. Here it needs to be at 90 degrees, so let me mark this at 90 degrees. And that looks closer to 90 degrees there. Okay, then I need to measure it, so grab my ruler, measuring from here out. This one needs to change this a little bit. Okay, so this is 10, looks like it's right at 15, so I need to put that at the 3. 15 times 2 is 30, which would be 3 centimeters. I can move this out. Again, put a point at J, put my point at J prime, make J prime a nice pretty green. Oops, wrong one. Okay, and then I can move my ruler out of the way. So I've got them all going 90 degrees perpendicular across the line of reflection, and I have them going the exact same distance on each one. So now I just need to join them all up with segments, and again I'm going to use green segments. So if H went to J, that means H prime has to go to J prime. And then J went to K, so that means J prime needs to go to K prime. And then K went to H, so that means K prime needs to go to H prime. And there is my reflection. And if you want me to clean it up, I can delete some of the stuff off of there so you can see it better. And there's the completed reflection without all the extra stuff on there. So how about if we already had the picture drawn and we just want to find where the reflection is? So I'm going to name the image of each figure under a reflection in the line M. So here is line M. Remember, lines are labeled with lowercase scripted letters. And I want to reflect WX. So let me grab, well, actually I'm going to grab that one because of the way I know this one goes. So if W is being reflected across T, that means it's going to go 90 degrees and go the same distance. So that means that W is now going to land over there. And then likewise, if X is reflected across T, it's going to start here and it's going to land over there at W. So X went to W and W went to X. So my answer would be XW. And that's a segment, so I need to put my segment line over it. So WX reflected in line M is XW, segment XW. How about WZ? Let's find WZ and put an arc on it. So W to Z is this way, right? W to Z. And Z is on line M, and we're still reflecting across line M. So W, oops, I'm not doing this wrong. Hold on. Yeah, let's go this way. Okay. So W would reflect across line T, and it would end up on X still. So W would end up on X. And then Z is on line M. Since it's on line M, if you reflect it across line M, it stays on line M, so Z is Z. And so W goes to X and Z stays to Z, and then we put our segment on top. So WZ reflected in line M is XZ. Let's try another one of those. So now we've got an angle. So if we've got angle, we'll go point by point. So X across line L. So X across line L, X is on line L, so X stays where it is. So this is going to be angle, and the X is going to stay. Then we're going to go to Z. Z reflected across line L. Well, Z is on line L also. So that one's going to stay Z. Then you have Y. And Y is down here, and Y reflected across line Z, or across line L. Y reflected across line L is going to take you up here, right? So if I move Y across L, perpendicular to it, there's my 90-degree angle, I'm going to end up at W. So if I color that in, I'll take green, I'll go blue for the original one, so I'm going to put this one in blue. X, Z, Y, X to Z to Y. Remember, I'm reflecting it across line L. Across line L. And then my after one is going to be X to Z to W. Okay, and so I'm just flipping it across this line L. Let's look at another one. So just point T, and I'm looking at reflecting it across line M. Point T across line M. Point T is on line M. It's right there on the line. So my reflection is just point T. Point T on line L. Okay, so on line L, here's my line L. So now T has to go across line L, and it would land right there if I went 90 degrees here and the same distance. And I have no point listed there. So I guess you could make a point and then call it something. There's my point A. Or you could just say there isn't one in this picture. How about if we go across line M, so line M, and I want segment UT. So segment UT is that one. And I want to reflect it across line M. Well, it is line M, so it doesn't go anywhere. So that is just, oh, I misread that. Back. This is UI. Let's go to UI. Sorry about that. U to Y is here. Okay. So U to Y, if I reflect the point, U stays U, and Y ends up being over here at V. So U is on line M, so I put a U, and Y changed to V, so I put a V. And that's a segment, UV. So UY, this one over here, flips over and is on this side, UV. Okay, I got a couple more to show you. How about if I reflect across a point? If I reflect through a point. So I want X, and I'm going to go through point Z. So X is here. I want to go through point Z and go the same exact distance to the other side. So X through Z, and let me make that a little bit darker so you can see it. Maybe I'll change colors too. Go to a dark blue and make it thicker. Okay. So X through Z goes to V. They would be the same distance across, and you have to go through the point you're reflecting on. So this would just be a point V. So X reflects to point V. And this one, we're going to go for a whole triangle. So let me shade in the triangle for you. Let me grab in the dark blue here. And want to go with some thicker lines too. So Y, V, Y to V, V to W, and then W would go back to Y. So this is our pre-image. Okay. Okay, there's my pre-image in blue. And I'm going to reflect it on point Z. So that means that Y goes through Z, and I probably need one of these. Y is going to go through Z, and when you go through Z to the other side, you end up at W. Right? So Y through Z ends up at W. So W. And then V, if I go through Z, V goes through Z, I end up at X. Okay, so next letter is X. And then W, when W goes through Z, I end up back at Y. So I'm going to have another one of those. But it's going to be going the other way around. So W would end up where Y is. So my next one would be a Y. Oops. W, X, Y. So, right. W, X, Y. There, those are capital letters. And then that's also a triangle, so I want to make sure I have my triangle symbol on there. Grab my triangle symbol and turn it back to black. Okay, so triangle YVW goes to WXY. You just go letter by letter, reflecting it through point Z.